it's so hard to find that line without suppressing civil liberties while also, allowing others to have a voice.
There is money being sent away.
What ways do you think that emerging technologies are affecting us?
Do you think we could all vote off of an app?
I wouldn't be opposed, I guess.
The impact of social media in young people's lives, the medicalization of the human condition.
Day one of shooting, man on the street. Getting a pulse here with Nate Fremeyer. Huge help.
Thanks.
So stoked to keep doing this summer. We're bringing back independent journalism to its core, to its root, practicing our First Amendment rights, freedom of the press. And what else do you have to say, Nate?
That's pretty much it. Just keep an eye out for us. We're going to be asking questions, maybe coming up with some solutions. We'll see.
Buddy, let's go.
First of all, how do you think that events globally that are going on are affecting us here locally?
Me personally, I don't feel very affected by the global events. I guess just in the general area, but maybe financially in the way that there is money being sent away when we could be using it here.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair. I completely agree with you. Do you think that the money that they're spending, that the justifications that they're using for why they're sending the money overseas actually does have any bearing on the actual situation, or do you think that it's covered? Do you think that they're fairly and accurately representing what the actual events are that we're supposedly involving ourselves in?
I personally think, maybe we could send them a little bit, but 100 billion at this point is just too much if we're talking about Ukraine.
Yeah.
And it's just, we could be using it better here in America, I believe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff we got to fix here first.
Okay. That's very fair. Clean up your own backyard before you go knocking on your neighbor's door.
Exactly.
All right. Yep. I hear you. What do you think in what ways do you think that emerging technologies are affecting us in our world? Do you think that innovation is still proceeding apace? Do you think that maybe there are things standing in the way of innovation? What do you feel about that?
I'm not in the industry, but I do feel like we're slowing down, and I personally think it is because of all the technology we have today related to our phones. Basically, I find myself being distracted a lot more than I used to be, and I want to say that's happening around the world.
Yeah. Follow up to that. Do you think that is intentional, or do you think that that's just an unintended consequence of all the convenience that we're chasing?
So yeah, humans always will, go for just instant gratification. We know that. And it's not far out there to say that it could be intentional. And, there's two ways to look at it, and it could be intentional, it could not be. I don't know enough to pick a side.
Yeah, well, they could also be just taking advantage of our time preference.
Exactly, yeah, because our time is money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. What role do you think that individual actions play in global issues, like climate change, for example, the global economy, war and peace, issues like that?
Down to the individual?
Yeah. How much do you think that we actually can affect things?
Sadly, I hate saying it, but I feel it's pretty low. I appreciate people that, try and make a difference on their own, but I think it takes a large group to come together to fix stuff. And yeah, that's all I got for that one.
Excellent. So you just think we don't have the critical mass for a movement, or do you think that there are moneyed interests that have already captured the influence and the power that are just going to keep making things so that we can't rise up?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I want to just say, kind of take a step back, and it's almost like everyone's become a little bit more selfish instead of working together as a community. And I want to say America is it feels very divided compared to when I was growing up. And that has something to do with it, I think.
Yeah. Would you say that would also kind of play into the short-sightedness of humanity, in that we are so convenient, we are so disconnected, that we really don't see global issues or issues that might affect us a generation or two down the road, and just ignore it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just the selfish human nature, I guess. Yeah.
Bennett, Landon, nice to meet you. So today, we're just, like I said, we're just polling the general public. I think there's a lot of weird feelings in our country and around the world right now. So first off, how do you think global events, where the world is going, where society
Certainly
This feeling.
stressful on everyone's minds are the unfortunate circumstances in Palestine. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just add that to your daily routine and worrying about them. So, it's like probably the same as with most people.
What are some positive changes that you've seen recently in and around your community, and how do you think we could build upon them?
Honestly, I'm not too aware of much going on in the community. I'm not sure of any recent major changes. I know recently there was the unfortunate shooting at UCCS.
Yep.
And so I know the community has really rallied around supporting people and uplifting the campus overall. So I think that's been a positive change from an unfortunate circumstance. But outside of that, I can't really think of anything.
What innovations, technologies are you personally excited about? What are you scared about, maybe? And maybe we can wrap up there. Just
Yeah, AI is certainly a little scary, I guess, on the horizon, but it's also useful. Businesses and schools can use it to improve their writing and their work overall. So it has its drawbacks, but it's also useful occasionally. As long as it doesn't get out of hand, I think AI should be fine. But
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Just a
Yeah.
quick question on that one: do you
Mhm.
think we could replace potentially Congress or our legislative bodies
I don't think we should replace legislative bodies with
AI?
AI at all. No, I think that
Okay.
could be dangerous.
Okay, fair.
But maybe utilize it in some capacity. But I don't think, especially at levels of power like that, should not be utilized. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. All right, one last quick one that flirts with that a little bit. Do you think we could all vote off of an app instead of having a Congress in general? Maybe not AI specifically, but
I wouldn't be opposed, I guess. Yeah,
Okay.
it's possible, I
yeah.
guess. Yeah.
So I think that's a big cornerstone here that we're trying to focus on is these futuristic topics
Mm.
and solutions, that could very much so be implemented today that could fix a lot of these big issues that we're facing. So
Right.
you're literally our second interview. Cheers.
Cheers.
I really appreciate you, man.
Of course,
I'm
man.
going to be doing more of these, hopefully.
Yeah.
So,
Well, good
thank
luck
you,
with
man.
the rest of your project.
First of all, congratulations on
Thank
being
you.
close to your graduation. First question is, how is everything that's going on globally, how do you think that that's affecting you? How do you think that that maybe would have changed the path that your college career had taken? Yeah.
Well, for me, I'm a history major,
Mm.
and something that happens to a lot of college, no matter the program is, sometimes you end up taking the courses that are available. And especially during COVID, I got to take a lot of the history of the Middle East and Islamic history. And that has been something that I wouldn't naturally pick out of a group,
Mhm.
but has really colored my education since then. And now, we're well removed from the pandemic, and that was the height of when I took those courses. But
Mhm.
that's informed my ability to engage critically in what's been going on.
Mhm.
And I do feel, even though it's a little scary right now, I feel more equipped at the end of my college experience to deal with these sorts of things
Mhm.
and find my place in it than before.
Okay. Actually, since you're a history major, follow-up question on that. Having studied history, that there is revision from the time that an event happens and the reaction of the world at large to that event.
Hmm.
And then afterwards, when we go back and say, well, events might not have been the way they were reported on the day at the time, and maybe our reaction was a little bit extreme or incorrect.
Mhm.
Does that knowledge of history temper your reaction to things that are going on these days?
No, absolutely. I think especially nowadays, something that's plays a big part on what we do as history majors is
Mhm.
not just reading what's there, but reading how it was written. The historiography of what we're learning about.
Mhm.
So
And the context of the
and the
historiographers.
context, yes, in which it was written, in which they were operating in. So that project's constantly going on, and so no doubt that is the case, and no doubt that that's not something that's going to ever stop.
Mhm.
It's a constant part of the process in terms of this field of study.
Mhm. Fascinating. Thank you. One other question. Do you see emerging technologies affecting the way you react to the world and how you think that you might be able to affect things globally?
Although I've seen how it can be effective for certain just menial tasks, I suppose, in regards to AI, that is something that I do have big concerns about.
Mhm.
Just as a college student these past couple years, it's been crazy to see just how brazen, for example, these AI services are marketed specifically towards students
Mhm.
to write their papers. So I'd imagine that's a much more tougher situation for professors to deal with.
Yeah.
But I think being very skeptical about how we utilize AI, not even just in history fields, but any educational, any commercial field,
Mhm.
really needs to be taken into account. And I think we've been seeing government action on that part, but I think wide skepticism in terms of that sort of technology needs to be kept up.
Okay. Do you see that as sort of a brain drain? If people don't necessarily need to have the knowledge or be able to demonstrate the knowledge, that they might go into the world as an expert and not necessarily have all that expertise and rely on technology more than
Oh
they should?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've I rail against AI, but at the end of the day, I've benefited from some of this online stuff that we've been forced to do because of the pandemic and whatnot.
Sure.
I'm sure certain tests have been easier and certain projects have been given a bit more leeway. So, I can recognize that with other aspects of technology. So I am in no way shy of saying that is definitely the case with other sorts like AI.
Excellent, excellent. Do you have anything positive that you feel about innovation, AI aside, or even with AI?
Mhm.
Do you think that there are positive ways that that can be interpreted or implemented, as long as we have the right sort of ethics and morals
Mhm.
regulating that activity?
No, absolutely. Just with computers in general, me writing my senior thesis and having to conduct that research,
Mhm.
the tools at my disposal to find the things that I want to include are exceptionally greater and more powerful than that which my parents had, and that has made the work easier,
Mhm.
but the work no less important than they did. So this is a no doubt that tools can be used,
Mhm.
but without recognizing the consequences that the utilization of those tools can have, I
Mhm.
think that's where you can fall down a little slippery slope of that.
Yeah, you can have all the information in the world. It's just, how do you interpret it? How do you utilize it?
Yeah, there's always good to it, but
Yeah.
it can fall by the wayside.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Nate, by the way.
Eric.
Just to start off with, are you guys innovation majors? What are you guys doing here at UCCS?
I'm an electrical engineering.
Electrical engineer.
Yeah, and he and I are both comp sci majors.
Yep. Cool. Perfect degrees to pick. I think with a lot of this AI stuff coming out, a lot of this technological innovation that's really taking over the scene. How are you guys feeling about that, just in general? You scared? You embracing it yet? How do you think?
Oh, I love AI.
I love AI too.
Yeah. It is pretty useful, yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, the subsection of like degree specification, I guess, of it, doing is machine learning and AI. So
Perfect,
I think
man.
it's cool.
Okay, so you're leaning right into that. What about you?
Yeah, me too. I use ChatGPT all the time. I think it's sick.
But only for homework, of course.
Right. Well, Nate actually had a good question in our last interview. Do you think that can cause a form of brain drain on the overall experience and how much value you gain from your degree? Like, I sort of had GPT when I finished up here, but I definitely had a lot of papers I had to just grind through, and I don't know. I can look back and appreciate them to a certain extent now. Not all of them. You know how that is.
Yeah.
But give me your thoughts there.
I think a little bit, yeah. I mean, when I first found it, I was like, dude, sweet, it can do my math homework. After a little bit, I was like, man, it's not actually that fun to use it for that. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'd rather know what I'm doing and then use it as a tool sometimes.
Yeah.
So, which is what I've kind of switched to doing. Especially with like coding work. Like, if I need something to get like I don't know, like a boilerplate code or something like that I can change, I'll have it do that and then make all the major changes that I need to. So I don't know, I like it for that. Yeah.
I can relate to that a lot. Like emailing clients, anyone really, you personalize it after you AI, because otherwise it's like pretty obvious at this point.
Yeah.
On the note of AI, do you think it's gonna help or hinder your career path?
I think it'll help because I feel like it just makes information so much easier to access. Like Googling stuff, sometimes Google doesn't give you the answer, but with AI, you just type it in and then it answers your exact question.
That's a good point. Yeah,
I think
it saves a lot of time.
I think it can help to a point because it can probably take a lot of jobs, like as it gets better and better, especially. But if you get behind the people who are like working on the AIs themselves, unless it starts making, AI starts making AI, which might happen at one point, you probably have job security, and that's kind of what I'm most concerned about with it. It's just job security and will there be any left?
Yeah. Just general cybersecurity too. I think that's a huge one. I know we got a lot of cybersecurity students here.
Yeah.
I'd be curious how they felt about that. So yeah, I think that wraps it up. Thanks for you guys' time. And what's your names, by the way?
I'm Ben. I'm graduating. So.
Oh, you're done.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Good on you. Congratulations.
Thank you. One more year.
Okay.
And I'm Connor.
Connor?
I'm Alan, and I got 2 more years.
Okay. Rip. All right. We really appreciate you guys and your energy.
Nice to meet you, Tegan. First of all, are you graduating? Are you
I'm a first year student.
first year student? Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. So as you enter college, how are you seeing particular innovations in technology like AI, for example, affecting your choices as you finished up high school and began your college career? Is it affecting your choices in major or how you want to study, or is that completely unaffected?
So originally, when I was like, okay, what do I want to do when I grow up? I did want to be a teacher, and I wanted to do English. But then with the development of like ChatGPT, AI that like helps people write papers and things, it didn't necessarily feel like the route that I wanted to continue going anymore. But now I want to do ASL, and I want to be an interpreter, and so I think it has been very helpful in that field because it's allowing people who have hearing impairments to be able to communicate easier. There's a program that they're developing gloves that, as you do the signs, there's an AI attached.
Live interpretation?
Yeah, that
that's
actually like
fantastic.
talks through the gloves so that people who don't sign can be understood.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. So that actually leads on to another thing, which is going to be a question about how do we keep AI tame?
It's a great question. I don't think I honestly know enough about AI to really answer that. I know that there's a lot of issues with like ChatGPT writing stories, creating artwork and things that is taking away the creative part of people. I think AI should not be used in a creative aspect for like film writing or design or art or things like that. I think it should be used for more mechanical aspects that benefit the world in a way that humans struggle with and let us do the innovation.
So
and
the
creation.
scut work, like debugging code and doing
Yeah,
the menial labor where we can then do the higher order function and the creativity.
Yeah.
Good. Do you think that the path to do that is going to be more of a market solution where people are just on their own recognizance and can be trusted not to do the funky stuff? Or do you think that it's going to require any overarching regulation or a strong hand, for example, for to keep that under control?
That is such a good question. I think there is a level of freedom that everyone should have, you know, land of the free, home of the brave kind of thing.
Sure.
And self-expression is one of the ways of doing that. And people have kind of been expressing themselves in ways that they couldn't before with the use of AI. But I also do think that it is definitely important that there is some level of control over what AI is doing.
Okay. So you think that maybe we can develop protocols into the AI itself
I think
that
so.
prevents it from overstepping?
I think that's probably one of the best ways to go about it, personally.
Yeah, just keeping the human oversight over it.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very, very much for your time.
Absolutely,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
I'm Rico. I'm an alumni.
Oh, all right. What did you study here?
I studied music.
Oh, okay. We actually have a question about AI. Okay. As it relates to music, how do you feel it's? Do you feel it beneficial? Do you feel it a detriment?
It feels a little bit in between, because as we grow as a society, we have been able to create great technology and that sort of thing. However, with the music scene currently, especially in hip hop, I know that AI has been a very big no in that regard. So it's very much in the middle, depending on how you look at it. But specifically in music, it's very, very much not a great thing.
So you're feeling that it's taking kind of the hard work out of the creativity?
Yes. I think, well, for one thing, if say it's like a singer, how can you really just type in a sentence and have it perfectly sing something? Maybe there might be a certain emotion that's not tied to an AI's voice, and specifically in composing in that kind of manner. Of course, there might be formulas to how music theory works, but AI can't put that creativity into that portion of it.
So you say that they could write to like a mathematic formula for write the perfect pop song and spit it out. Of course, yeah, anyone with a brain would think that that's a bad thing. Do you think that the industry is kind of regulating itself as regards to that? Or do you think that there are some kind of fringes that are kind of taking off with it, not with the approval of the rest of the industry?
So I think it's a little bit harder. For one thing, as a creative source, AI definitely has its pros and cons within the music scene, but within the industry itself, it's very much seen as negative in that kind of connotation. In terms of how the industry is like combating it, it's really hard, as since this is a new growing technology and a new form factor with that, it's not really hit hard, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
It's not really being seen with any bads, pros and cons, that kind of thing, or any sorts of retaliation.
Okay, so it will kind of, you think, evolve into more of a market solution where people who want to consume art created by that will have a niche and kind of be an experimental thing, and that the human creatives might utilize it in like the scut work of creating music.
Sort of. So I think it's really weird in the music scene and kind of just in the art scene as general. You have, of course, the creatives who draw, create music, take photographs and that kind of thing, and they use AI to make it, and then that is kind of its own niche thing where a lot of people are really interested in that. And then the same thing with music. I think it'll split in the ways where, like, of course you can't fabricate like a band, you can't fabricate X, Y, and Z, but with the AI terms of it, it's like some people might enjoy that. Some people might be able to just create that without having to learn that process and just fiddle around with what AI could do.
You think it might be something like the analog versus digital music divide, where some people are on vinyl going, it just sounds warmer and it sounds better and it sounds human, where the digital ones will be like, I don't care, I just want to turn it up real loud?
Definitely the first one. I think with the digital age music, with like such as MIDI, that's definitely its own form factor. You can't replicate like a MIDI guitar. But the same thing with AI. You won't be able to have that passion. You won't be able to have that replication with it.
Yeah, it'll be a thing like you put your ear to it and you're like, that was AI.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Of course.
Rico, was it?
Yep.
All right, thank you very, very much, man. We're here at Colorado College. We got a free Palestine camp that popped up a little bit ago. We're going to go ask them some questions, look for some solutions, and see what we can find out from the youth of today.
All right, so no luck that time. They love Lunar Bear, of course, and you know, they're just trying to make an impact in their own immediate community. That's totally cool. They're professional and nice about this. So, you know, Nate and I are moving onwards here. So we're going to see who else might want to express their opinion. And yeah, how do you feel about that interaction there, Nate? I thought we were going to get something better. Damn.
Good interaction.
Yeah, they're cool.
Kind about saying no.
Yeah. What's going on, everyone? My name's Landon. I just found Lauren.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself really quick.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about your major.
My name is Lauren. I'm a senior at Colorado College. I'm studying sociology and molecular biology.
Jeez, that's a mouthful, but sounds really cool. So yeah, this platform we're just trying to use to let more people express their opinions and voice, and just really get a good pulse on the Earth and things at large. So
cool.
There's a lot of things changing right now in 2024, 2025.
Indeed.
On the horizon already. It's crazy. So just in general, what do you think would be technology that is something that's got you a little stressed out lately?
With technology related?
Yeah, so that's a compliment.
I think in general, the two things that come immediately to my brain, but the first is the impact of social media in young people's lives. I think that's really harmful. Seeing different images of what we should and shouldn't be all the time, and having a constant influx of news and whatever is going on in the world, I think is really dangerous. And the second thing that I think of is the medicalization of the human condition. I think that's somewhat related to technology, but I think just putting a diagnosis to everything that we experience as humans is really, really dangerous. Yeah.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that. Yeah, go for it.
Would you say that we're making a mistake a lot of times in science by diagnosing the symptom as the problem and treating that, rather than going back to the root of the problem and actually finding out what the problem is there and solving it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think treating symptoms as just a direct result of an individual existence, I think, is really, really damaging. And I think without addressing the fundamental causes of what's causing illness, we can't really create any sort of solution. And I think it also places the responsibility on the individual to create some kind of solution to a risk or a symptom, whereas in reality, the symptoms are often created by the cultural dynamic that we're existing in.
That's a good answer. I can definitely relate to that on this personal level. Like both my grandparents are into their 80s now.
Yeah.
And probably on 20 prescriptions each. So
Yeah.
we have no idea how those are interacting. And whenever you give that question to the doctor himself, they don't really even have a good answer
Right.
for it.
Yeah.
So I'm very fan of holistic, eating
Yeah.
whole foods and
Yeah.
ancient medicines.
Right.
And I think those definitely have a good place in our future of medicine.
Yeah.
Molecular biology too.
Yeah.
Did I say that right? Going on here. Where do you think we're going to be in 10 years as a society? It's just a culture. Maybe more
Well, if
American.
we're following trends now, I think we're going to be, well, kind of apocalyptic in a sense, not to sound too pessimistic, but I think the world is burning and people are suffering and people are also making money at the expense of those things. And, I think if we continue down that trail, that's what's going to continue happening. I also think within my lifetime, we're going to see some kind of a revolution. I don't know what that will look like, but I'm hopeful that it'll be positive and we'll help try to fix those things and overturn the structures that are trying to maintain those things. But
it's so true.
Yeah.
I like to think that the revolution that people think are going to be fought with guns and cyber warfare, this is our weapon here is the camera and our voices. So hopefully that can carry us forward to a more positive direction.
Yeah.
What do you think that'll evolve into?
Well, as I see it now, chaos. I'm hopeful that it'll,
pessimistic.
Yeah, a little pessimistic. I'm hopeful that it'll turn into a society where we can learn from each other and respect each other and value each other rather than seeing each other as the enemy all the time. Whether or not that happens, I'm not quite sure. But
well, that's exactly where I was going with all this. These questions are, I guess, a little bit reverse engineered in a way to get us all to be on the same page and to show that, because we're all going to be answering like things are rough, but we'd like it to get better and we could all get on board with that. So yeah, that's a great way to end this. Thank you, Laura.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
With Liv at Colorado College. So part of what I was talking about earlier with another one of those fellows is how do we move forward from our current structure? Like our political system, I think pretty much everybody can agree is pretty corrupt. They like to say that, anybody could be president, anyone could do this, anyone can do that. But in fact, you kind of have to have a little bit of privilege. You have to have connections. You have to usually have been brought up in a certain way around certain people, right? So what would you say would be in your utopia a better way to structure that so that more people are heard, it's fairer, and people aren't kind of using the ballot box to make promises with other people's money and other people's time and lives?
Well, I mean, I've talked a lot about this with my mom and my dad. Yes, I can agree that our political system is kind of messed up right now. I think the big thing is like deception. It doesn't matter who's running. I mean, you're right. If they have good connections, if they have money, if they have been brought up a certain way, or if their name has been in the spotlight for multiple years, that's why people vote for them. But it's not like we actually get a real good look of what's going on inside their lives, because a bunch of people could be corrupt, promising promises that just they won't fulfill on, like anything to get a quick vote. This is kind of a hot topic, but I don't like how we can send in via mail ballots that we've already voted for. I think if you want to vote, if you want to have the right to vote, you have to go to an actual voting stand and vote.
Okay. That's actually a very interesting thing, because I was doing a little bit of background research, and it does show that in a lot of cases where a claim of some, let's say, irregularities might have been dismissed out of hand, they do find upon further reflection that maybe things weren't 100%. And, here in Colorado, we've had mail-in ballot voting for quite some time, about 20 years, if I remember correctly. Do you think that maybe has affected our political system and maybe some previous elections, even here in the state and locally?
I don't. I feel like we've been very good I think once COVID hit and no one knew what was happening or how to agree on anything, I think that's when basically everything went to shit. Sorry, excuse my language.
No, we can cuss here. It's okay.
Cool. But I think that's the reason why so now it's kind of like people don't know who to trust. I mean, being a college student and being on this side, like, and having very, very Republican parents, but also being at a liberal arts school, like, I'm very much surrounded by both sides of the factor. But honestly, my own opinion is what matters, and I don't think people understand that. I don't think people understand that whatever your opinion is your opinion. Sorry, puppy. Whatever your opinion is your opinion, and you shouldn't try to force it on other people. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're not doing great. But circling back to the question at hand, I mean, I just don't think we ever should have had mail-in ballots. I mean, it's as simple as that. I think a lot can happen with mail. I mean, some of my mail gets lost all the time. Just a lot can happen, and it's just, you don't know who's handling the process.
Do you think that maybe the years immediately prior to COVID kind of primed society for an extreme reaction to the situation when it did arise?
I think, sure, it's a difficult question. I think COVID came out of nowhere, and I think people didn't know what was happening. So, and when it just came, it kind of took everyone by shock. Everyone thought it was fake. Everyone thought it came from a bat. I mean, there was a lot
of wild stories out there.
Exactly. And it was just, I just think that we have been on a downfall for a very long time. I mean, there was so many things wrong, and I don't know. I've only like scratched the surface with this topic, but I honestly believe that it started with the assassination of Kennedy. I mean, he was loved by everyone. He was voted by both sides. I mean, and then he got assassinated, and somebody.
Yeah, and he had a pretty big hate on for the intelligence apparatus at the time, which is maybe a little suspicious.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, would you say, ideally, that we can maybe grow past the current chaos into something that is not going to be as polarizing in our governance, as far as, getting away from the divide of Republican, Democrat, left, right, and just kind of say, listen, there are limits. Past that, we're not going to really bother with anybody, but within those limits, this is where the discussion happens.
Yes, I mean, human beings are very, very intelligent species. I mean, I think we have a lot of potential, but it's not going to change unless someone actually makes a change. So we're going to keep on going down the same path if no one actually steps up. And right now, no one is. Everyone is split a billion different ways.
Yeah, they're worried about themselves and how they can get ahead and kind of devil take the hindmost. Yeah,
exactly.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your thoughts.
Yes, of course.
Wonderful talking to you, Liv.
Nice talking to you too.
We're here with
Max McKee.
Max McKee?
Yep.
Oh, that's a sick name. All right. Just introduce yourself.
Yeah. I'm a film major here at CC. I'm 22 years old, junior. Been here all 3 years. Currently living on campus.
Cool. It's a sick school. I'm jealous. I went to UCCS. So just in general, we're just trying to get out here and get a good pulse on, my generation, our general feelings towards life,
Right.
It'd be a very complicated, chapter in this day and age. So are there any specific technologies, any disruptive things that are coming out lately that you've had your eye on that maybe you're a little scared of, maybe you're looking forward to them?
Disruptive in the sense of changing the way people act and live and work.
Yeah, like the next smartphone or the next internet. Yeah. What do you think that's going to be?
I mean, AI is, I guess, the big one. That's the buzzword everyone's talking about.
Yeah, I think we're definitely all on board with AI, being a pretty game changer. I heard somebody say actually the other day, it could be even more significant than the steam engine. Like this could be like the invention of fire.
Right.
I was like, geez, that's some heavy stuff. So just some thoughts on where you think we're going to be in 5-10 years maybe with that stuff?
I think that's tough to say.
Okay, cool. That's probably what makes it scary, right?
Yeah, I guess my own experience at college with it is, I know a lot of kids use it for research, use it for writing their own papers. Teachers are always trying to figure out how to work with it and also, work not around it, but make sure to not let it sort of run classes. I don't know. I think it's crazy. I think that we're also just at a big point where people are trying to decide their priorities and their values, and I think that technology is going to follow in the way people go with that.
Yeah, COVID was very much so disrupting, I think, to our philosophy and how we approach life. I think we're trying to find fulfillment and purpose rather than riches like the older generations did.
I hope so.
Moving on a little bit here, where do you think that we're going to be as a society in general in 5 or 10 years? Are you positive? Are you a little pessimistic there? We're trying to get a good feel on those sorts of things as well.
I try and stay hopeful. I think that, we're definitely in a very difficult time, but I don't think we're really at a point where, it's worth throwing in the towel and people giving up and saying that we're all doomed.
Not at all.
I think that there's a big chance for the world to be a really great place in 5 years. I think that a lot of people have a lot of hope and energy and are willing to put in work to make change. It's just tough because there aren't a lot of avenues for that to really happen. There's a lot of barriers to people trying to make the world a better place. Student activism is one thing you could talk about. People have so much emotion and so much energy about trying to make change happen, and there's so much, I guess, standing in the way of it. So that's one way you could look at it.
Definitely. I think for me personally, I got fed up. I was like, we got to hit the streets. This is like a situation where there's no guns in this revolution. This is going to be a intellectual one, in my opinion. And this is our weapon here. It's mic and camera. So with that, I think those are some pretty good answers.
Thank you.
Max McGee. That's so cool. I don't want to butcher that. I've never met you. Yeah.
I'm Aya.
Aya.
Mhm.
I'm Nate.
Nice to
This is
meet you.
Landon and Luna Bear, of course.
Of course.
And we're here on the lovely CC campus. And we're talking about just general life philosophy, how you feel about things, how you feel about the future.
Okay.
So, like, how you feel about technology, right? What field of study are you in?
I'm a poli-sci major. I just switched.
Ooh, fantastic. So, all right, that's actually right in the wheelhouse. A couple of questions about that. One, do you see any new emerging technologies that are being useful in these studies? Are there ways to, say, use social media and the instant interconnectedness of our societies and our world to find A, a problem faster, and B, maybe find a solution faster?
I think something we talked about in one of my classes, Secrecy, Surveillance, and Democracy, was talking about the role social media has really played in expediting how we get our information, especially in global conflict, with how different forms of media are maybe not as popular, such as newspapers. Platforms such as TikTok or Instagram have really been able to spread awareness, especially I think we've seen that with protest movements like BLM or even, on campus with the pro-Palestine movement and stuff like that, which I think is cool.
Yeah. Would you see potentially other technology like AI, for example, being used to manipulate that? Let's say they use AI to fake a video. That video very quickly goes viral. That viral video creates a huge reaction, and then that reaction creates action on something else. Would you say that that's a big danger, or do you think that people, before jumping right into something, for example, might be able to pull back?
I mean, I think with any new technology, there always comes a danger of like something being false or untrue. And I think, throughout history, we have seen all these innovations. And I think that fear has come with each new round. So I think that definitely is something that people have to be aware of. But I think that will hopefully be remedied through internet literacy and also just awareness that can happen. I do know like the AI can be super realistic, but I think it's something people can totally handle.
Good. Do you think that say social media, for example, can help us usher in some changes to the way our political structures operate and the way we interact and interface with each other in society?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like a political realm, it can help hold people more accountable. I think it allows for more accessibility to different conversations, allowing more opinions. But I think at the same time, it can also be a little dangerous in creating I'm forgetting the word, but a very narrow scope of view. So I just think the way it's used determines its impact.
Yeah. And on that point, do you think that it's what role do you see, if any, in censorship in social media? Do you think that there is any kind of an overriding argument that can be made to censor social media, or is the user experience of the social media and the structure of the media itself sufficient?
I mean, I think that's such an important question that like so many platforms are dealing with right now, in the US, sweetie, where we're having like, these conversations about the importance of free speech that is so critical, especially to what this country stands for, but also making sure that you're not having misinformation or incredible amounts of hate speech or racism is equally as important. And I think, kind of what you were getting at with the question is it's so hard to find that line without suppressing civil liberties while also, allowing others to have a voice. So I think that's a really hard question. And I think, it's definitely in conversation. I mean, even at CC with this like talk of banning Yik Yak, and then on a more national level with the conversation surrounding TikTok. I don't really have an answer for that. I think it's super complex.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the best thing is that it's an individual answer. We do all personally have the power. If you don't like what you're hearing, you have mute, you have block. If it's a violation of terms and service, like there are remedies, right? But yeah, I agree. Like there is no hard and fast answer, right? Because the fundamental question, as far as any of that goes, is who decides, right? Who decides what's hate speech? Who decides what's misinformation? And unless you have some way to find or crowdsource an ultimate authority, I would say, and I think you might agree, is that it's better to step back from a censorious position and say, let's see all the information, get everybody their voice, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's so important to have other people's voices be heard. Especially, being able to listen to other people's opinions is so critical, but also making sure you're not doing harm with what you're saying. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. All right, y'all. This is Nate, Nk9 FPV on the Instagrams. We just had a really nice session here at Colorado College down in downtown Colorado Springs, Colorado. Met a lot of people, had a lot of good conversations. I hope that you find them as engaging and as worthwhile and valuable as we do. And until next time, this is Landon with Landon Lives Life, Nk9, Nate, saying goodbye, and we'll see you next time.
Let's go.